Hi guys, Phil Portman here. Today with me is Daniel Borrero. He's an investor, entrepreneur, business coach, and podcaster who founded USA Land Ventures, a real estate investing and training company. Hi Daniel, thank you for coming and joining us today.
Oh, thank you for inviting me.
So let's start off with just tell us a little bit about your background. You've been in the business since 1986, is that correct?
1989.
1989, very good.
Yeah. Yep.
So tell us a little bit about how'd you get into real estate investing and a little bit about your background.
Sure. So I'm originally from Brooklyn, New York, Fort Greene, Brooklyn. Actually, for those of you that are familiar with Fort Greene, it's a really nice place to live now. But back in the days, it was the OK Corral, to say the least. So I actually grew up in that area. And my father had a bodega, which is a grocery store, literally only a block away from where we lived in one of our apartments. In one of the apartments, actually, I grew up in one of two apartments, and the apartment my father, where we paid rent. And my father opened up the store. I literally grew up behind a counter, working alongside my dad since the age of 9 years old. He was there for 35 years. And when I graduated from college, I felt most comfortable coming back home to my old neighborhood. And that's where I opened up my first business, which was a video store. The video store, I was there literally for 25 years. So it went from videos, it went to a beeper subscription place where we had over 130,000 beeper subscribers, about 30,000 retail, about 100,000 wholesale. And then that grew into the cell phone business. And eventually, those businesses have its life cycles, and we grew out of those, right? As what all this life cycle just came to an end. So, but during the entire time, what we kept doing, my brother and I, was buying property. So we literally just kept reinvesting our cash flow from the properties into buying more properties. And one of the goals was, or one of the ideas was, don't buy anything that we can't walk to from our office, because the time that it takes to travel back and forth to an individual property, especially in New York with all the traffic, it could add another hour to your day, and then you're down that hour, right? It wasn't the most efficient layout of our time, right? So, and that's essentially how we started the real estate business.
Gotcha. That's awesome. And you've grown it leaps and bounds to today, and then obviously doing coaching as well.
Yeah, I mean, the coaching side came about as a result of my kids. You and I discussed this. They kept telling me, Dad, you look at the garbage they're putting out there. You have to really put it out there. And when I really started looking at some of the stuff that people were coaching, I was like, wait a minute, that's not good advice.
Yeah. That's right.
And then when I started seeing how much they're charging for this, I'm like, wait a minute, that's not really right. I mean, so in my case, I don't charge anything because I do it because I love to do it at this point. I can, that's why we do it.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'd love to hear more on that. You talked about family in our previous conversation and the importance in your life. How did family affect your career and your decision to be an entrepreneur, and how has it developed over the years?
So that's a very double-edged sword type of question, right? So when you're younger, I found myself taking extreme amounts of risk with no fear, because I figured I had time to make it up. And there was really no ramification if I made a mistake, right? Whether I lost money or not, because I could always make it back. When you have a family and kids, you have little people depending on you to feed them
looking at you
every night, right? It's a different animal,
That's right.
Once those little people arrive, you're like, wait a minute, I got to change my whole strategy here.
They're relying on me.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's right.
With those big brown eyes every morning when they look up at you, you're like,
they want to eat,
Yeah. So it's a whole different animal. So the risk gets more measured. It gets more calculated. There's less risk involved. There's always a risk I don't care what business you're in. But you got to make sure that if you have a fallback plan, a financial fallback plan, and the people dependent on you are not going to have to suffer as a result if you made a mistake or not, right? Or you didn't do enough research, or you didn't do enough homework, or you didn't do enough diligence. due diligence on the deal. So the risk tolerance is very high when I was younger and I had no children, right? But as you get older and you have less time to make up for those mistakes, the risk has to be more limited and more calculated.
Sure, that makes sense. Yep. You don't have an upset family if you don't have Christmas.
Christmas tree, that's right.
So it leads to the next question. In business, we've all made mistakes, especially in entrepreneurship. You got to rebound from those things and learn from them, and just understand that mistakes are part of the business.
That's it.
What's a mistake that you've made, and that would be great advice for somebody that's new getting into the business, or even just getting into self-employment or entrepreneurship?
Trust but not verifying. That was the biggest mistake I ever made. So I trusted what I heard and I saw, but I didn't take the time out to verify. So guys, and that's management 101. And I knew that. I was just, it was laziness on my behalf.
Sure.
That one moment of laziness cost me a lot of money. And it's happened to me more than once. I would say at least 2 to 3 times. I guess after the third time, it was a bigger sledgehammer that I got hit with.
Yeah.
It was a lot heavier.
Yeah.
So no, it doesn't happen again.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen again.
Yeah.
But yeah, trusting but not verifying. It doesn't matter where it's coming from. I don't care what the relationship dynamics are. Always verify.
Sure.
And that's part of, that's manager 101. I mean, even with my contractors or my workers, I got workers that have been with me for 23 years. They tell me they did something. I still go to the job site and check it regardless. Or I'll still tell them, send me a picture or send me a video or let's do some FaceTiming. I want to see it. I'm verifying. So I don't care what the dynamics are. Always verify.
Yeah, and honestly, that's probably important to them as well, because it shows that you care about their work as their employer, as their boss, right?
Oh, yeah, without a doubt. And you'd be surprised as they know, as they learn your personality traits, they take the time out and say, you know what, he's going to come back and he's going to make me do this again. Let me just do it right this way. Or I'm very detailed orientated. If I walk into one of my properties and I see a piece of paper, and I'll walk into a property unexpected times at 9 o'clock at night, 6 in the morning. And I'll take if it's a piece of paper in the hallway floor, I'll take a picture of it and I'm texting it to my super. I'm like, why is this here? And they'll give me an excuse like, well, I just cleaned it last night. Oh, I was just there this morning. Wasn't there. I don't want to hear it. So because I go in so many different odd hours, or sometimes at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I find them walking the property more and checking everything.
Yeah.
Because they don't want to get my text and they don't want me to call them and say, meet me at this building right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. Yeah. So I find them doing a little bit extra just so that, since they don't know when I'm coming.
Yeah.
If that tells you anything.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. Yep. I had a manager a long time ago that says, as a boss, your employees got to fear you just a little bit. Just a little bit. I keep them a little bit on edge.
I don't know about fear. I just make it inconvenient for them. So the more inconvenient I make
trust me, when you're pinging them early in the morning, there's a little bit of fear on that, whether you want to believe it or not. Yeah, that's funny.
So that's one of the tactics I use.
Sure. And it's tough for people, especially early on, because you get to that point where you have to delegate things, yes. Especially early on in real estate. I don't know if you did some of the work yourself or not, but
my brothers and my dad and I used to do all the work ourselves. And I'm not going to kid you. Sometimes I still get in the middle of the job site, and I do that for a couple of reasons. One, I actually still enjoy it, believe it or not. 2, it's a great workout.
Yeah. Yeah, sure.
And 3, I'm letting my guys know, my contractors, there's nothing here that you're doing I can't do, and I'm not willing to let you go at the moment, right now, in the event that you try to cut corners. I give you that warning once, and the second time you're off the job. And because you'll be very surprised how much more they're willing to work and get it done right in the right amount of time, because they know, wait a minute, this guy actually knows how to do this. Wait a minute, this guy's actually carrying sheetrock. Do I do it for every job? Absolutely not. I can't because it's not cost effective. but I do it sometimes just to let them know that I'm still around.
You're still around. You're still, still the guy. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So more millionaires have been made with real estate than any other way.
Mm-hmm.
And yet there's a lot of people who have some sort of fear about getting into it. What do you think's the biggest thing holding people back from getting into investing like you're doing?
Mindset. It's a mindset. So our education, and I'm not sure how you feel about our educational system, but I'll tell you how I feel about it. Our educational system was a system put together to teach us how to go work for somebody. And if the generation before me, success was, you go to school, you get a degree, and you go get a good job. And I never understood that mentality. So when I was in school, I'll give you an example. When I was in college, my freshman year, that first week, they take all of your, all the freshmen and they try to get you guys to socialize, and they have these functions. And I remember one of these functions, it was late at night, everyone's hanging out and they're talking about what they want to major in. And 99% of the kids there didn't know what they wanted to major in. And I knew what I wanted to major in, which was business. And 99% of them didn't know what they wanted to do. And it was a very odd feeling. I felt like I shouldn't even say what I wanted to major in, because I was the odd man out. Because I knew from day one what I wanted to be, which was an entrepreneur. I just didn't know how I was going to get there. Sure. I didn't know what vehicle that was going to be, or what it was, what make and model it was going to be in, right? But I knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur. And then I quickly realized in college, I wasn't being taught how to be a self-made entrepreneur. I was being taught how to go work for an entrepreneur.
Follow direction, right?
Right. And make them money. So, that happened around when I started taking my core classes, second semester, sophomore year. And by first semester, junior year, I was very, to say the least, disfranchised with the system. But I mean, I had to stick it out. I was there already, right? I was halfway done. Why not finish it?
Sure.
And I'm glad I did, because I still use a lot of those courses in my everyday business activities. But the reality is, it wasn't until recently when I started taking my last two kids to look at colleges that I realized that a lot of the schools are starting to teach now entrepreneurship in itself. And which classes that I wish I had available to me when I was going to school. So I'm a little encouraged now, but still discouraged with all the grades from 1st to 12th grade. We're being taught to go work for somebody. And we need to get out of the mentality that, we're going to go get a 9-to-5 job. We're going to be there for 30 years and we're going to have a pension. The reality is that doesn't exist anymore. And you wake up every day hoping that the entrepreneur that you're working for feels like getting up that day to make money or create resources for you.
A lot of trust, right?
Right. So, guys, if I don't die filthy rich, it's not going to be because of lack of effort. It's going to be because, circumstances didn't allow. That's the way I looked at it since I was younger.
Yeah. Would you say there's somebody that would not make it as an entrepreneur?
The reality is, and this yourself as an entrepreneur, we work longer hours than 9-to-5 people.
Yeah, you definitely do it for the passion. That's
right. Do I have to work as many hours as I do? No, I don't have to do that anymore. My kids are done. They're all done with college, with the exception of one, and his college fund is all paid for already. So, it's just my wife and I. We don't live lavish lifestyles. Not because we can't, but because that's not who we are. Yeah. We spend our time. I rather spend my money and time with spending time with my family at dinners and vacations, and that's what we do. So, and do I take nice vacations? Yes, I do. But no, I'm still putting in minimal 60 hours a week. But I don't have to. I do it because I love to. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Sure. Yeah. Yep. So the reality is, I tell people all the time, you got to be insane if you want to be an entrepreneur. This is not a lifestyle for everyone. If you put more value on your time than money, do not become an entrepreneur. Go be a teacher. Mm-hmm.
Sure. I agree with you on that.
And I'm not saying anything wrong with teachers, but the reality is they don't have the hours that we have, right?
That's right. You got to love solving problems, getting in the mix, new issues every day, fixing things. You got to love the grit of what you do every day.
Yeah, I tell people I'm a financial social worker because I'm always fixing other people's problems. When you come to me and you want to sell me your properties, you have a problem.
That's right.
So either you're going through a severe divorce, you're going through some financial difficulties, you just made a lot of bad decisions in your life, whether it be social or financial. So we are, that's what we are, problem solvers.
Absolutely. You're a psychologist sometimes. Throwing on the different hats, right?
That's right.
So throughout your career, when was the point where you felt like you made it? Like you had success?
I've never felt that I've made it.
That's what keeps that drive going, right?
Never. You know, I get that question asked to me all the time. I just had that question asked to me by one of my cousins that I'm still we're really close. And he said to me, Danny, when are you going to be satisfied? I says, if I'm ever satisfied, put a bullet in my head.
That's right.
I'm done.
Lay down in that.
I don't want to be satisfied. No. Why? To me, it's exciting. It's a drug. Every time I do that great deal, it's a high. I don't drink. I don't smoke cigars. I don't even go play golf. I mean, it's the deal. It's chasing the deal that's the excitement. It's a feeling that I can't describe, and I could only assume is why people take drugs, because it's a feeling that they're always chasing that next high or the next best high. Well, that's my case. I'm always chasing that next best high with the deal. It's all about making the deal.
Absolutely. No, I couldn't agree with you more. I think that, when you have that high, that feeling just in part of your life, everything else, drinking, all that stuff is a secondary cheap substitute for what you actually get.
Listen, right? I get asked to go get, like a friend of mine, John, says to me, I got comps for two suites at I forget what hotel, Atlantic City. Let's go hang out. We'll gamble. I says, John, I gamble every day. The only difference
that's my life.
So the only difference is the odds are in my favor, not the house favor. So no, I'm not gonna, that doesn't interest me,
That's right.
So you're right, 100%.
What's the most common misconception you've heard about real estate? Or you talked about earlier, you've heard some just really poor trainings and that sort of thing. What are those misconceptions, that misinformation that you hear from people?
I hear a lot of information, basic property just on cash flow, right? And I really hate hearing that. And there's a lot of guys out there, I shouldn't say that. There's a lot of guys out there that do well with it. But the real money's on the long-term hold. The real money is in staying the course. The real money is, buying the long-term property that's going to have appreciation in markets that are going to appreciate. And then there's different tactics and strategies that you could figure out that helps you figure out whether that property will most likely appreciate at what percent per year over the course of the next 20 years. Okay. The other misconception out there is I see a lot of guys out there driving real expensive cars, showing up on the job site with, $2,000 shoes. They've got in their wardrobe alone, $4,000, right? $3,000-4,000 and then not including the vehicle they're driving up on. And then they walk around like, yeah, I'm the boss, right? Listen, guys, that's not the real side of this business. It's not. The real side of this business is, well, first and foremost, if you're investing that much money in how you look, it's that much money less that you're going to have to grow your business. So when like in my case, it pains me to buy a brand new vehicle. It kills me. Do I get it? Of course I have to. It's part of the business. It's part of, I need that for my family, right? But I look at it and it's a piece of metal that's appreciating on a daily basis. Whereas if I take that same amount of money and I put that into a property, I'm getting cash flow that could buy any vehicle I want. So can I drive a $200,000 car? Of course I can. Do I? I don't know. So those are the biggest misconceptions that I find in the business. It's not like, I remember when I was a kid, there was this Asian man there were two guys out on TV, Carlton Sheets. I'm not sure if you're old enough to remember him. And you would get his program and he would send you cassettes.
Yeah. The real estate investing courses. Absolutely. Right. Yes.
Yeah. Yep. And then there was another
guy. No money down or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. And that's another misconception. Yeah. And there was another guy, an Asian guy, and he'd be on a big, yacht with all these beautiful women around him. And he says, and all this could be yours, right? If you invest in real estate. Look, the reality is, can you afford that? In many cases, yes, you can. But that's not most of the cases, no. Yeah. The reality of this business is that you will be very wealthy if you stay the course over the period of time. If you don't, I could make $160,000 on a flip. And I take that 160, I put 33% away for the government. So I could pay my estimated taxes every quarter. And then the rest goes into a down payment for a long-term purchase of multifamily for cash flow. And the cash flow then pays for anything I ever want in my life.
The stability. Well, a big part of that, what you described, though, is what drives you too, right? If you're driven by the fancy cars and all those things.
Yes. And there's nothing wrong with it.
Sure.
As long as it doesn't hurt your business. If it's going to hurt your business, has to take priority. It's got to be family and then business. That takes priority, guys. If your business is not your priority and looking good is, your business is not going to grow because you're not feeding your business. You're feeding your looking good
your
side
hobby,
of your lifestyle.
Yeah, right? Your lifestyle. Yeah, that's right. So, what's a good piece of advice you'd give somebody just getting into real estate investing, young guy just getting in or young girl getting in? What's a good piece of advice, if it be it real estate or even entrepreneurship, starting a business on their own? What's a really good piece of advice you'd give them?
I'm gonna have to give several on that because one will not be enough. First and foremost, educate yourself. Take the time out to educate yourself. And in this marketplace, with the technology we have available to us today, it's pretty much all out there for free. YouTube is an unbelievable instrument. Number one, whatever that segment of the market is, or that product or that service that you're trying to sell. The other thing is, I'm going to tell you, the other thing and the second thing is most important is learn how to sell. If you learn how to sell, you're going to learn when you're being sold. You're going to see it coming. Great book is by Jordan Belfort, Way of the Wolf. I highly recommend that. Another one is The Millionaire Mind. Understand what a real entrepreneur thinks like. Self-made. These are self-made entrepreneurs, The Millionaire Mind. It studies of these self-made millionaires. See what their desires are, what their habits are, down to what type of a person they marry, whether it be, that your spouse is an extremely important selection in your life. You don't want someone that you want to be two horses pulling the wagon together, not one going to the right, one going to the left, because then the wagon won't move. Stay the course. Things are going to be rough. You're going to doubt yourself. Remove the negative people around you. Go to meetings or networking events, but don't go to any event where you're the biggest person in the room, because then you're not going to learn anything. You got to be in the room where you're most uncomfortable, where you're the smallest person in the room. And I know that's really challenging. I had to get over that myself. I still do several times. But you want to be the smallest person in that room, because those bigger people are going to bring your level up way higher, much higher.
That's great advice. Honestly, great advice. And I love how you wrapped it up. And I mean, it's attainable to anybody. I mean, we have access to so much information out there.
Yes.
If you make learning part of your daily habit, the sky's the limit, right?
Yeah. I mean, and the reading part is most essential. You want to know what the macro is, what's going on in the economy worldwide. You want to know what's happening in the country, and then you want to know what's happening in your specific market area locally. And with that knowledge, you could anticipate where the migration of people are going, where the migration of services are going, and you could position yourself accordingly before it even gets there. That's where the real dollars are.
That's right. And I love what you said about the sales thing, because I couldn't agree with that more. One of my first jobs was door-to-door sales in Detroit, knocking on doors, selling them stuff. And although I didn't make a ton of money at it, I learned a lot. That
did you not, right? You probably learned, and correct me if I'm wrong, their body language tells you everything. Yep. Like as soon as they open the door well, first of all, you probably only had 5 seconds for them to decide whether they were going to listen to you or not. Yep. Right. So that skill gets improved. And the second skill that gets improved is the body language that they're representing to you, right? Immediately tells you whether you have a chance or not, right?
Honestly, that's the boot camp for sales, dealing with people, any of that. You get a door slammed in your face enough, and then the worst part was they would drive us out there, and they'd be sitting in the van just watching us. So you're on stage at the same time.
I know exactly what you were doing. They'd give you all these products, whatever they bought in bulk. Was that what it was? And
whatever it was, yeah. You go there and you give somebody like, hey, let me in, and I'll give you this free roll of paper towels.
Listen, it developed. Look, it's so funny when people ask me, how did I learn what I learned? How did I learn what I do? And I tell people I learned doing what I do, shining apples in my dad's deli, right? So my father had a huge sandwich business, and every morning he would pick up 3 cases, sometimes 4 cases of apples. And my brother and I, by 6:30 in the morning, were washing apples. And then around 8 o'clock, they were dry enough. And we had to then shine the apple with Western oil and paper towel. So, when I was in my teenage years, my dad decides to leave me in charge and goes away for 3 days to visit his mom. And no, I'm sorry, a week. And I tell my brother, screw that, we're not shining apples. Dad's not here. Well, we went from selling 3 to 4 cases of apples a day to only selling a half a case. So within 3 days, I says, we got to start shining apples again. So essentially, all we do is shine apples.
Yeah.
That's what we do, shine apples. I hope that was a good metaphor.
Oh, it's great analogy. Honestly, it's in the details. A lot of people don't realize that. Talk about like, I can tell the difference between like a successful restaurant owner or an unsuccessful restaurant owner. When you go into their shop, you talk about their business. They know what they're making down to, what they're paying for that salt packet or
that's right,
stuff like that. Those guys know. And then you go into these other shops and these guys are flashing money. They got all this stuff. And I say, that guy won't be in business in a year.
No.
Once he's gone. Once his loans are up.
That's right. I agree 100%.
Shining the apples is a good analogy on that, because that's really what it's about. It's the devil's in the details, really.
Yes, it is. Shining apples. That's what we do.
Well, Dan, thanks for getting on with me today. Please follow Dan on Instagram, USA_land_ventures, and also at usalandventures.com. Anything you want to sign us off with here today, Dan?
No, again, thank you for inviting me. I had a great time. Anybody have any questions, feel free to DM me. I have no problems responding. I love this side of the business. I actually love sharing it. It makes me feel good when I hear the success of people that have reached out to me.
Cool. Well, thank you guys for joining us today.
Thank you. Take care.